Hi, and welcome to Praeternatural Mysteries with your host, Ivotres Littles, and Dr. Lovey. We will take a closer look into the paranormal, supernatural, and the unexplained. But before we get into that, how are you doing, Dr. Lovey?
Wonderful. How are you doing?
I'm doing fabulous. I am doing great. I'm doing, I don't know. I'm just doing. I'm
We're
just
doing.
doing. Yeah. I always love horror films. I just love them. I grew up with them. They're everything. But I was always fascinated with the paranormal and the supernatural and the weird shit that is out there. So I finally found a really awesome person to work with, and we're gonna get down and all in it.
And explore all of the things that started those horror movies and all those stories.
Yes, because of all of that, the weird stuff out there that we're going to talk about, that's why we have horror films. So today, the main thing, what we're going to talk about is what happens when you die. And that's a scary topic in itself. I mean, we could just talk about just that sentence in so many ways, but we're going to get into all kind of supernatural, scientific, whatever you may believe in or not.
It's a huge question. We're not going to have the right answers, but we're going to come up with every answer that everyone's proposed.
Yes.
So we'll
But
explore it.
But before we get into that, we're going to talk about why we are going to talk about this. Like why is it so fascinating? And I'm going to start with you, Miss Lovey. So why the paranormal? Why all that crazy stuff, the things that go bump in the night?
Well, of course, I've had my own personal experiences.
Yes.
And of course, I've tried to explain those experiences, and science cannot explain those experiences. So we looked to the paranormal and the supernatural, and I started researching those the whole of my life. It's been the one topic that I always return to: true passion and true love. In my family, we have people who are fortune tellers. My mother can see the future; her dreams would come true. If she told me not to go out that night, I absolutely listened to her and didn't go out that night. And usually there was a fatality. And it's,
Ooh.
how do we explain those things? How is that possible? It exists. It's real. It's happening in our lives. So there must be an explanation. And we say supernatural and we say paranormal, but the truth of the matter is that it is in this world. It is normal. We're just trying to figure out the laws of science that explain it.
Well, in the beginning, before the whole COVID, I was introduced to Lovey by David, a good friend of mine, David and Paul.
Yep.
And they told me about Lovey here and her husband Dylan, and I wanted to come up with, do experiments and do fun stuff with this, with paranormal and going out and visiting haunted places. And we met at a burger shop, and we just hit it off from then.
We had nacho fries; those were great.
It was good food and good company. And
we did. We hit it off. We had a great day. Similar interests, definitely.
Yeah. And then the COVID.
Yep. The pandemic.
Yes. And a lot of things halted, but a lot of things had me thinking of how can I bring this back. And I was like, oh, well, I do interviews online. Well, we could still talk online. And it's just like, oh, we're going to bring it back. I'm going to bring it back. And here we are today, going to talk about some paranormal, some supernatural, and the unexplained. Yes. So
we will keep exploring.
Yes. Are you ready, Lovey?
I'm ready.
So back to that question. What do you think happens when you die?
From everything that I have seen and everything that I have read, it appears that there is, without question, life after death. We do not cease to exist. We continue to exist in another state of being. There are too many sightings. There are too many experiences, near-death experiences, shared death experiences. There are too many sightings of loved ones after they've passed away. There are too many stories of ghosts throughout history. We cannot discount all of this information and all of this evidence and first person evidence and say, nope, nothing exists. It's just we blink out. It's not true. We definitely continue. We just continue in a different form. And most likely that is another form of energy.
So me, I don't know. That it's kind of hard because I have never experienced any paranormal that I'm
Mm-hmm.
aware of. I mean, there
Mm-hmm.
could have been a ghost like just walked by right now, and I have no idea. But I've never like see with my own two eyes something lurking in the shadows, or a figure, or my hair stands up because there's something standing behind me. I've never experienced it. So how do I guess it goes back to what happens when you die. Like, what do I believe? That it's just a toughie for me. I don't know. I mean, I know it's a strange thing. I guess if whatever you believe before you die matters the most. I mean, if you believe in your religion that you're going to turn into something or be something, maybe that's what you will become. I don't
I,
know.
I'd like to touch on that because the personal beliefs that a person has in life tends to bleed into stories that we've heard from experiences of near death experience. So, for example, when Buddhists have experienced near death experience and come back and told us, some of them claim that they saw Buddha. Some Muslims claim that they have seen Muhammad. Some Christians claim that they have seen Jesus. Other people's claim that they have seen, just their loved ones or even pets. So personal belief does seem to play some sort of aspect in that. Now the question is that Buddha? Is that Jesus? Or is that an entity who understands that that person can only conceive of that holy figure and therefore appears in a form that they can understand?
Well, yeah, I guess it depends on religion, what you believe, what you grow up, what are your morals. All these things are play a huge factor in your life. But then it goes to what about those who are atheists or don't believe in anything, at all, like zero. They just go on their day to day life, and if you die, you die. Oh well. Um, it's I think that plays a part, because if you don't believe in something, if you're going to heaven, are you going to hell? I mean, is there a hell? Unless someone has been there, I mean, and came back and described it. But even then, there's people who have died and came back, once they resuscitate them and say, oh, I saw the pearly gates or something. How much is that is the truth, or it could be the medication, the drugs that they're given to keep them alive. I mean, it's I don't know. Maybe I'm being a little bit of the devil's
No,
advocate on that.
we
On what
enjoy the
to believe.
devil's advocate always on this show.
But
Um,
but there are three. I think there's three states of how you die. There's the natural state, the supernatural, and the religious state of
ooh.
where you're going. So natural state, you get a heart attack. You shouldn't been eating them burger and fries, and I got clogged arteries. You get a heart attack or something. That's the natural state. The natural things that we as people could see, decompose, bloating, natural things. Supernatural state is when someone passes away, or and they have came back, or where do they go? We don't know. We just have to believe the words of what they say when they return, if they do live, if they do
Mm-hmm.
come back. But
Mm-hmm.
if not, we have to go based on the religion. So there's the religious state, like where or they went to heaven or hell, because they were good or bad or whatnot. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that it's three factors to that, and I think they're all they're also different. I mean, if you work at a mortuary and you cleaning the bodies and dressing them, I wonder what that person think. you know
There's a ton of stories that we can come up with, and that's an entirely new show. But I would like to touch back on, you mentioned what happens when the atheists die and have near death experiences, and I
Mhm.
can tell you that there's a very high percentage of them that come back and change their tune real fast. They're like, oh, guess what? I was wrong. There's something going on. So,
Mm.
whether they're afraid that they're going to have to pay the piper when they show up next time, when they actually really die the next time. But a lot of atheists come back, and whether or not, it isn't that the majority of them say, I now believe in God, I now am Catholic, I'm now Muslim, but they do come back and they say, there is something greater than we were aware of, and I understand it.
Okay. um. Yeah. Okay. Well, see, well then that could be when they pass away, and maybe they're seeing the lights in the rooms, the noises of them trying to be resuscitated. I don't know. I feel like,
No,
I mean,
that's
can all
true.
those other factors? I mean, yeah, they change their tune, but maybe what they're seeing is, because some of them have their eyes open, or your brain takes a while to die. I
Hmm.
mean, other parts of your body kind of, give up, but your brain, it has been known 3 to 7 minutes based on whatever the injury is. So,
We know that even when we dream, if our eyes are open, we take in parts of the room and incorporate that into our dreams. So, without question, I'm sure that while the body is passing away, they will be taking in their surroundings if they're
mhm.
capable of doing so. But we have multiple repeated stories of people floating out of their bodies, seeing the scene from the ceiling, being pronounced dead, minutes passing, and still being able to tell the nurses and the doctors what was going on in that room when the nurses and the doctors fully believed that that person was deceased. And these are repeated numerous stories. And
Hmm.
and I can't, we judge what is real or what is not real or what is fact and what is fiction based on repetition. Everyone hits the age of 5. Everyone's had their first love. So now we know what love is because we compare our emotions and so forth. So we are comparing near death experiences, and for the most part, they share the same characteristics repeatedly.
So when you're saying the stories about people, floating out of their bodies and looking, is this before or after whatever the initial accident and they're brought into the hospital?
There are different times when people leave their bodies, but there are repeated stories and experiences of near death experiences where nurses and doctors are attempting to resuscitate a patient, jumpstart their heart, stop their bleeding, and the patients are capable of seeing everything that's going on in the room from a completely different perspective than from their body.
Hmm. Okay. So,
So we could say, oh, it's just the lights. Oh, it's just the drugs in their system. We could say all of that. But there are other situations that are known as shared death experience, where loved ones actually share the passing over of a person. And those people that are sharing the loved one that is in the room with the person, say if there are a lot of hospice scenarios where people are going to die no matter what, and their loved ones are there. Everyone knows that the person's about to pass, so they stay with them. But there are experiences where living individuals who are not pumped with drugs, who are not in the process of dying, experience the same exact passing over scenario that the person dying experiences. So they see the fog coming into the room, they see the room transposing into more of a ethereal light. They see a light at the end of the tunnel. They see sometimes other entities coming into the room that should not exist to help that person that's passing over cross over.
hmm, I could believe that.
Yeah,
Listening to that, I could believe that. I've never experienced that myself, but I could believe that, and this is why. Um, if you're in so much grief, and you love the person so much, and you've been there through all their pain and hardship, and um, just that unconditional love, I feel like there's some kind of connection,
absolutely.
regardless of what you believe in. There's a strong connection of, you just hurt because you feel helpless. So the emotion of guilt and just, pain. So whatever the person there is experiencing, you experience it. I mean, it goes like, when my mom was pregnant with me, she really didn't have morning sickness, but my dad did. He had, she had cravings and he had cravings, but he would wake up or smell something and go run to and throw up in the bathroom, which is strange. I mean, but you hear stories of men experiencing
Absolutely.
it. And I think it's that closeness, that close tie bond, um, with the mother, regardless of their relationship. It was, they really wanted the baby. They loved the baby. I mean, it could be the close relationship with the baby, not necessarily the mother. I mean, it's just that, they experience everything. And there's some truth to that. I mean, when my niece was in the hospital, you know, I I just felt completely helpless when she had brain surgery and so much pain. And there
Oh,
was absolutely nothing I could do, but I felt pain. Like I felt her pain. I mean, nothing physically was going on with me, but it was like, it just sucked. And I think a lot of people may have experienced that stuff. I mean, you're there with your loved one, whether they have a common cold or they're dying of cancer. That pain is real. You're there for them. You're taking care of them. You're changing their diaper. You're changing their meds. You're there all night, and then when it's time to go, that that spiritualness of you just being bonded to that person could be just so painful that you start to experience that kind of stuff. So
absolutely.
yeah.
Without question. There are shared experiences that we have, even though we shouldn't have a physical connection, but we
Hmm.
do. We do. We absolutely do. We have physical connections, emotional connections, mental connections, sometimes telepathic connections. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, that's scary. Do you think that
It's beautiful.
not at that moment. I think a lot of people would say different who's experienced it, but it's beautiful enough that you have connected, bonded with someone so tight
Truly.
that you could feel their pain. I
Yeah.
wish there was something that we can always feel that kind of pain, and not just when you love someone, because I think change in the world would be it would be so different in this world if we could feel what we're doing to a person or what they're going through.
But it
So,
happens the other way around too, because you've been in a room with somebody and you can't stop laughing. Like one
yeah,
person will just get the giggles and you'll start getting them too. I mean, it is a shared emotional connection that you have, and it's contagious to an
it
extent.
yeah.
Yeah.
That yeah, unless you had an edible, then you're always you're always
Oh,
laughing. No, no. That's another time we'll
shared
talk about.
experiences.
Hey, those are real shared experiences. That's another topic. Drugs, how they alter the mind. Anyway, but yeah, it's so crazy, and I think because I love horror films. There's some horror film references that I wrote down here that reminded me of just where do we go when we die? Like, are we just like, is every person that died in this okay, before I say that, what do you think? Every person that has died on this planet, human being, animals, that's another topic, but human being, once they die, do you think they stay here regardless of what's going on with them? Do you think the
I
the,
do not.
the
I don't
spirit?
think that. I do not think that there has to be one solution to every spirit. Like, for example, every single person that's born doesn't get to live to the age of 88. So why would we think that every single person that dies goes to the same place? For example, some people think that when you die, you reincarnate. Some people think that people that reincarnate are souls that have shared life experience, or that, for example, someone's grandfather passes away and comes back as their son. There's some reincarnation stories like that. So, souls repeating within family lines. There are also reincarnation stories of souls that get reincarnated based on the geographical location where their body died. A lot
Mhm.
of wars that occur, children in those areas after soldiers, massive amounts of soldiers have died. A lot of children will be born within the 5 to 20 years and have memories of being in that war, in that area. Very strange. I think sometimes people can stay. I think sometimes people go to another reincarnation. If they like that ride, they get in line on that amusement park, and they get to go on something else. And I think sometimes you get a new body, sometimes you get a new life experience, sometimes you get to be a different creature. Perhaps we don't even stay on this earth. Perhaps we get to go interplanetary. But
So,
sometimes things do stay here without question.
so the things that stay here, let's talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
The
Okay.
things that stay here, why are they either good or bad? Because you know what I mean? Like, okay, if they stay here, we don't hear about them because they're good. But the ones that are bad, huh?
I'm going to give you a really deep thought on the terms good and bad.
Okay.
Only
Well, let me
okay.
let me finish.
Okay.
So, good and bad. So the things that are good, we don't hear nothing about. The spirits that are here, we're going to say the spirits that are good, quote unquote. We don't hear anything about really, unless they're the guardian angel that helps someone
Right,
make a
with the
decision or you know, like that.
right.
But the things that are bad, or have participated in something that's bad or helped someone do something bad, seem to stay and lurk and haunt and be evil and poltergeists and all that craziness. Why? Like, why haunt someone and torment them for moving into your home? That's not their fault. They didn't do anything.
Hey, I've had some bad days. I want to do it too.
but you know what I'm saying? Like, the good things, if the good spirits that are lurking around, what, you know, grandma's watching over me while I'm asleep. Well, why won't she stop mom from hitting me? Or why can't she stop, you know, this person from molesting me or doing terrible things if she's just watching me sleep? But then you have the entities that have went through a violent death or something that can haunts people and move things and torment them. Why is there such a separation? Why do you think so?
I do not see the separation only because I read constantly and I read stories about ghosts that have done laundry for people. They come back and their laundry's
They need to
folded.
come over here because
I'm
I
not
need.
joking. I've read stories about people who have like checked on their baby monitors and there's a ghost singing to their child a lullaby. There are good ghosts. If you look at the history of witchcraft, the majority of witches believe in house spirits. Even in folklore, you have house spirits. And the majority of those house spirits, when they are happy and when you offer them honey and milk and when you give them offerings and you talk to them, they make for a happy, harmonious home and they assist and they are benevolent. So that's folklore, witchcraft, good spirits, kind spirits, ghost stories about spirits helping people, tons of stories about angels helping people, either pushing them back from the curb or not letting them step on the gas and going into the intersection. Um, there are also equally the same number of stories about wicked, evil humans and bizarre, dark entities. Now, first thing, if we go into good and evil, only a truly omniscient creature that can foresee all of the future and all of the past would be able to judge what is good and what is evil. If
Is
I
there
go to my neighbor's house and I gut him right now, that's seen as a pretty evil act. But the backstory might be that he might be molesting his niece. We don't know that. All right, all of a sudden it's a good act. We don't know unless we know every single consequence of the action itself. So I try not to judge things good and evil, but without question, there are creatures that cause massive fear, massive chaos, and there are stories of people who claim to have been possessed and that it caused them to murder other people. So, I mean, these are things that we would define as evil without question, but without knowing the true consequences of every single action, we can't label good and evil.
So why do you think certain spirits stay? like stay here and do whatever they do? Why is grandma folding clothes? Like,
Well, sometimes the love that you have for another relation is so strong that you're not willing to go to the other side, I would imagine.
mhm,
It seems that when we hear near death experiences, it seems that people are often given a choice. You're not supposed to be here, but you can stay if you want, or you can go back. And when they go back, they usually experience a massive amount of pain when they're going back into their bodies. And I don't want to think that the purpose of life is to experience pain or sorrow, but certainly the purpose of life seems to, from a Pleiadian standpoint, the purpose of life seems to be to have experiences, vast and multiple experiences that once we pass away, we go back to some sort of common consciousness and share our experiences. And
mm,
so I hate to say that we're experiencing suffering, because I don't think that someone's life should be about suffering. And certainly someone's life isn't always about like jolly goodness, happy, fuzzy, cuddly butterflies.
mhm,
Um, but it seems that experience seems to be the purpose of life.
mm. So see, that makes me wonder. Um,
Good.
my family, uh, the way I grew up, I have so many examples of things that can relate to so many topics that we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
But it still goes back to where do they go? When my dad died, I didn't I didn't know he was okay. It's weird. When he died, I was very young. I knew he died, but I was always wondering, where did he go? Like, where? Because if he's if my sister could see him and she was the one that did something terrible to him, um and then my niece could see him, my mom, and everything. It's like, well, what makes me so different? Like, why have I never seen him? Why he never appear? So why do certain then that question goes to, why does some ghosts, if not all ghosts, go visit or hang around certain people and not others, but the ones that meant most to them?
I would love to be able to answer that question, and I would love for us to find an answer to that question.
Yeah, we need one.
It, it,
Because I
if
feel
if we study the stories, if we study the stories, then the stories would most likely lead to the ghost appears to the person that needs to see them the most. But that, in a way, kind of leaves you out. And
yeah.
almost in a way, I wonder if your father realizes that you love him and he realizes that you're not nearly as screwed up as some other people are. So he didn't feel like he needed to like show himself to you. But I know that would matter. I know that so many people would love to be able to see their loved ones. And to a certain extent, I have read stories where loved ones have come back and said, I'm not allowed to tell you things. I'm not allowed to talk to you. I can only visit you for a little bit of time. And so, to a certain extent, if again we look at the stories and experiences that people have had, it almost seems like there is some sort of law and order going on the other side.
It
Like
sounds
they got to follow some rules. I don't know
I,
what they are, but
yeah, I mean, I've always wondered that, and it's like, okay, like, where do they go? I mean, just the other day I was talking to Mario, and I was like, I maybe that part where you go to sleep and you doze off,
mm-hmm,
and then you wake up and it's morning.
mm-hmm,
It's like, oh, and some people die in their sleep
mm-hmm.
and peacefully never wake up. Um, do you think, and even in our sleep, is there some death occurring in some way?
As in, do we die a little bit every time we go to sleep, or are
Yeah,
we saying
yeah, yeah. Like, is some parts of us, are we able to? I know what I'm trying to say. I said it last night, but I can't even remember. I should have wrote it down, because I like, you go to sleep and you're somewhere else, or your spirit is somewhere else, or your mind taking you somewhere else?
Mhm.
Are we physically there, and do we get stuck that we cannot return, those who die in our sleep?
Ooh, I don't know. I haven't
Have
heard
you
those
heard?
stories.
Oh, you haven't
Um,
heard that one? That one scared me. Now I'm scared to go to sleep.
ooh,
But do you get like, I
I've been
wonder.
physically injured in my sleep, but I've never died in my sleep. I would like to find out who has experienced death in their sleep and interview them. That would be fascinating. I would love to hear those stories.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, we should
Like,
ask readers or commenters to share, definitely.
yeah, that would sound kind of scary. I think I scared myself a little bit,
But
because it's like you go to sleep, you don't know, like that is the most vulnerable thing you could ever do.
aside from falling in love, yep.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think falling in love is number one.
Now, we go to sleep, and certainly our body changes its chemistry and its brain waves, but other brain waves take over. Some people claim that they can do astral projection while they're sleeping or in meditation. Some people remember their dreams vividly. Some people don't remember any dreams and think that it was just that's exactly what death is like. Often that's some of them are atheists, where they think that death is just like sleep. You go to sleep and nothing happens. There's nothing there. But again, the ones that are atheists that have had near death experiences tend to change their tune when they come back, because they do see something on the other side. Um, there's lots of different beliefs as to what happens when we sleep, and there are also lots of people are capable of doing things when they sleep. Some people walk in their sleep. Some people fully function in their sleep, or even in a drunken blackout, they'll fully function. Some people are fully paralyzed in their sleep. If you have the old hag syndrome or you have the night terrors, those people are mentally aware and awake and yet physically paralyzed.
Oh, that has happened to me.
Hmm. It's
Um,
terrifying.
it is terrifying. My first one. I was 10 years old when that happened, and so this my dad died in '87, so I was 10 years old, and I remember going to bed. This is when I lived in San Bernardino with my sister and her kids, and I went to bed normal, but I woke up, but there was a dark figure like hovering, like flying, but it was straight up, but it was kind of hovering, like it had no legs. It was like levitating almost,
Ooh.
coming at me very slowly, and I could not say a damn thing. Like I was trying to wake up, but as I was waking up, I wasn't fully awake, so I was aware. I was like halfway in, halfway out.
Uh-huh.
I
Hmm.
felt the bed. I felt the room, or if you know what that feels like, what I mean by that.
Yeah,
But
you're aware.
I was still seeing this figure and the other, and still in the dream.
What was it?
I don't know. It was just completely black. It was like it was wearing like a um oh my goodness, like a cape, a
Ah,
black all the way down, but it didn't look like it was walking, because you could see the legs, the
right.
knee, and everything. It just felt like it was floating, and as I was waking even further up, like I was getting more out of it, the bed started shaking,
Ooh.
and the bed was shaking, and my eyes were still closed though, but in the dream they were open looking at
Uh-huh.
whatever, but outside they were still closed. It's weird. And finally I got out of that, but I was still stuck laying in the bed, and the bed was shaking, and I was trying to call out to my niece, because she slept in the bed across the way, and I just couldn't say nothing. It was like everything was just stuck where it is. And finally, when I was able to make a noise and my body felt like it released
Hmm.
itself, I jumped clean out that bed and slept with her. And she was like, "What are you doing?" Like she was waking. I'm like, "What are you? Why are you in the bed with me?" And she knew I was scared. Like
Oof.
something scared me, and she was like, what was it? And I described it to her, and she was scared, so we were both scared, and I didn't
Ooh.
sleep in my own bed for a long time.
Oh my goodness. Ooh.
Um, yeah. So, but then I didn't know about night terrors. I didn't know about any of that. So, um, I just thought some dark monster because I watched horror films a lot. Like something was coming at me. But then as an adult, I would still have them. But they were scary. I think as an adult now, they're more scarier because I don't know if I'm having a seizure. They don't happen frequently. It's like once, twice a year.
Ooh.
So I don't know if it's I'm having a seizure because it feels like my not the bed is shaking or anything. Um, but if
Oh,
it feels like my body is convulsing or something, and I
a
have to
lot of
fight to get out of it.
a lot of people have described it sometimes as an electric shock feeling as well, where it feels like energy is vibrating throughout the body, almost like a feedback happening.
Hmm.
So yeah, bed shaking, energy, vibration, electrical shock. That's how it's described.
Yeah, and now that I know, or I think I know, that it's night terrors or something similar, I just kind of I have to still have to fight my way out of it. But it only happens when I lay on my back
Interesting.
flat. So I have to be flat on my back and then I could feel it coming. And then I have to fight to get out of it, like struggle, and then I'm out. But then I have to change position.
I would love to know if other people have experienced it like on their side. Like I would love to be able to we have to find some people and ask them if that's always on the back or how that works. I wonder if that has something to do with it.
I I wonder if I'm just having seizures.
Well,
Oh no. Like I'm wondering am I see then it's the scientific, the part of it. Am I laying in a certain way that one of my arteries is being blocked to the brain, and then, am I having a stroke or about to have a stroke or a seizure and I happen to break away from it? I don't know. I haven't
okay.
taken anything from it.
Take all of the stories you have ever heard of people who have had night terrors
Hmm.
and put them all together. There is no way that all of those people are having a seizure. There is no way that all of those people have pinched the same exact nerve in the same exact area on their neck. There is no way that they're all doing that same thing. But night terrors are completely real. And everyone that experiences night terrors experiences the same shared experiences. And usually it is an entity in the room, a feeling of paralysis, a fear that is almost not only coming from themselves, but like projected onto them.
Mm.
So
Okay.
science
Yeah.
would have you believe that it's just a night terror, that none of those things that you see are real. But if you listen to everybody's story and everyone's experience, they're all the same thing. Everyone's having an entity in their room. Everyone has either the old hag that climbs up on their chest. Other people
Oh.
have the dark shadow that's in the room. Other people have the thing that's staring at them at the foot of the bed. Yeah.
Hmm.
And it's the same thing over and over again. So how can it not be real if we're all experiencing the same thing?
Hmm. So that so now that we're discovering stuff like this, and I'm really enjoying talking to you because to see it on a different perspective. I mean, I read a lot of things and stuff, but to see it through to hear it through someone else's experiences, um, and then it starts to make sense.
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay, maybe I'm not crazy.
Not crazy at all. You've had that
You know,
experience. Lots of us have.
so I wanted to touch bases on certain movies that
Okay.
kind of around this time I'm sort doing that. I talk about movie references that talk about experiences of life after death, where we go and why these spirits are hanging around. What are they looking for and why? And I think one movie that really talked like really talk about life after death, or is it a bunch of things that have died, bunch of people, bunch of spirits, and they're so angry and they compress into one entity? And I'm talking about the movie Entity. um I seen that movie, and it's terrifying because it's based on a story of a woman that is being brutally assaulted by something, some kind of spirit entity, and it haunts her, it terrorizes her, and just, do unspeakable things. There's even one point of they try to capture it,
Mm-hmm.
whatever, what was, she did some kind of sleep test, um, and you know, they kind of confined her in a space, and they wanted to use some kind of liquid or what to capture it, to see if there's a physical form that they cannot see, to get it. And once she was being attacked, I mean, she was brutally had marks and assaulted, sexually assaulted,
She was sexually
she would
assaulted.
say.
Yes.
Yeah, would say. um and at one point, when it followed her to the research place, they actually released this gas or liquid to capture it, but it didn't. Yeah, it caught something, but they couldn't tell what it was. It was just a mass of liquid or whatever, smoke or steam or whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
And then it still didn't help anything because it still terrorized her after that. And I think, believe it came out in the 70s. And yeah, that movie was a trip.
Well, let's touch on the first aspect of that, which is the repeated sexual attacks or
Mm-hmm.
repeated sexual experiences. There are stories, and again, through history, going back all the way to Greek times, that discuss about spectral entities that come and have willing participation or against one's will participation. And we all know about the succubus. We all know about the incubus. We all know about the demonic creatures that come and exchange sexual gratification for a person's energy or essence. Um, so, without question, we have repeated stories of creatures like that. And there are stories of people who have made demonic pacts where it's a willing submission to a demon for sexual gratification. And we have stories where people have been repeatedly assaulted against their will by entities, without question.
That is scary. I couldn't imagine being assaulted on a daily basis by something you cannot see.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah. I mean, she could have experienced a real life sexual assault, and in her mind could have taken her that way that she couldn't cope with it. So it feels like something was continuously assaulting her. And so I don't know if there's actual stories of that. Your mind your mind could do more damage to your body than someone actually physically doing something. There's, I would wake up with bruises, and I'm like, I was asleep. You don't know if you're hurting yourself
Mm-hmm.
in your sleep, or you're so damaged by something that happened to you, you are hurting yourself, but don't realize you're doing it. I mean, all these factors could have played in with that woman, but we don't know. So, I mean, that could have been. I'm kind of looking at more of an explanation than a supernatural one, possibly. Because I myself, who was abused, find myself when I was younger abusing myself, but I didn't know it was wrong because I
Mm-hmm.
got so used to it being done to me until, as I grow older, it's like, no, that's wrong. But you could be so conditioned, so it possibly that could be happening to her and she doesn't know. But either way, something is happening. And it's just, I can imagine, it's just.
Definitely, definitely, there are stories of people who have experienced so much emotional trauma that they can manifest injuries to their body.
Mhm,
Or, of course, there are stories of people who have experienced so much emotional trauma that they do injure their body and don't recall doing so.
mhm.
Unfortunately, there are too many stories about that. Yeah.
Another film that I think really plays a part on where we go and why do some stay is Poltergeist. Because, you know, you got the family move in the house, and then the spirit world was so strong there because Carol Ann happened to be born in there, and they believed she could take him to the promised land, take him to the place on the other side, because some old wrinkled man who, you know,
That guy was scary and creepy. He was a
yeah,
great actor. That was
yeah,
so
he
fun.
was. He
Watching
took
him
these,
walk up to that screen door. Ooh.
yeah, he took them people and said, "Hey, believe in me. I'm going to take you to the promised land because the world is going to crap." And they just died, you know, right there. But he believed this child could take them away. How real do you think poltergeist can that actually happen? Because it
There are
felt
very
so real,
there are
even
very
though,
specific aspects that occur in Poltergeist that are told throughout experiences that I've read. For example, some children are born more sensitive than others, and spirits do seem to be more attracted to them. Now, that child can choose to not see them and grow out of it, or that child can choose to um, harness those gifts and explore them and improve them. So definitely Carol Ann could have been born as a more sensitive. Another thing that's in that movie is that there are portals, and
mm,
a lot of the more serious haunted house stories that we hear or read about, there are portals that seem to attract almost like a major parkway or intersection for spiritual activity. And if that portal is left open and not closed, and some mediums are capable of closing these, and some people are capable of opening them, even worse, um, then different entities can come through. Sometimes they call it the veil, sometimes they call it a portal.
do you believe these portals are everywhere?
I do not believe that they are everywhere. I do not know what causes them or opens them. I have seen white lighters, people of holy stature, kindness, what we would call good people, close them or assist spirits in moving on through them. I have seen what we would call evil people open portals for other entities. So, but portals definitely exist. I don't think that they're everywhere. I do believe that there are energy points on the earth. That it's another topic that we're going to explore.
Mm-hmm.
But there are energy points on earth that can be exploited to become portals without question.
Mm, that's that's deep because it's like, okay, then it goes to, can why are portals only open in certain places and some places not? Like, what does it have to be an Indian burial ground? Does something have to disturb a gravesite? You know, why we don't see portals at gravesites? You know, why does um cemeteries seem to be more peaceful, even though the dead is laying there? They're not as crazy. I mean, you may see some, auntie walking and stuff. But I don't know.
Okay,
What do you got
look
to
at it
say?
this way. Look at it this way. If you have a government ruled by an open society where everyone's in everyone's business, i.e., a cemetery, they got to behave. Whereas if you have people in private houses, a lot of horrific things happen in private houses because no one's watching them. So think about it. When a
Mm.
child's raised by a village, there are little, fewer abuses, fewer horrific things and scandals. But
Yeah,
yeah,
because everybody's in your business, so you can't do it much because you're going to get caught
you
or
guys
somebody going to know.
there's a
You
lot of
know.
grandmas at the cemetery. You guys should behave.
Where, yeah, you're right. Because then if you're, your privacy, your own home, you could do, you know,
Yep.
all kinds of things. Yeah. So then that goes to, if you pass away during some kind of violent act,
Hmm.
um is it something that you can't cross over until um something was resolved to their, she
Like,
find peace. And
like
I
the
think,
Grudge.
the grudge, that's exactly, the Grudge is a good one. Not the newer one, but the one that came out in
Ooh.
2004 was powerful rage. And a lot of Japanese films,
Yeah, that got me good. That got me
yeah,
good.
a lot of Japanese films always talk about rage and violent
Hmm.
things that cause curses.
Hmm.
And if someone died terribly in a household, they either tear them down or don't touch them if it's massively cursed.
Hmm.
There are old buildings in Japan, houses that are just condemned because you don't go in there, you know. Um, but yeah, what do you think about that? Like,
I
why?
have heard stories, and this is one particular haunting that I'm thinking about, where a woman was murdered and she consistently comes back looking for her killer and hates all men that come in to that building. But the worst part about that story is that she was murdered 300 years ago and she's still pissed and she has no chance of finding the person that did it. So, how long can you hold on to something? I don't know. Apparently, some spirits are really good at holding on to some bitter things.
Wow, that's such a sad
It's
story,
it's very sad. It really is.
because then there's no rest.
Yeah.
Whether you believe in the spirits or not, there's just no rest in that story.
Yeah. And
So she's going to
until
be continue until, the planet disintegrates. And
so
even
some
then
people,
she might float into space still looking. I
yeah.
mean, you never know.
And the worst thing is that she finds people and she terrorizes them because she still, thinks that might be that person. So, yeah. I don't
Mm.
know if someone could help her pass on or what, but it's very sad and terrifying at the same time because anyone could be her victim.
Yeah, I mean, just listening to, your stories and everything of people out there that go through terrible things and then they pass away, and whether you believe in the spiritual world or not, it's just sad that, some are lurking out there trying to find their killers, trying to find a way to get out of whatever state. And that's scary. We don't know what's going to happen to us when we pass away. And
Mm-hmm.
if I hope I go and never haunt, because that just seemed like torment. It seemed like, yeah, you do something, I'm going to hunt you for life. Well, think about that. you know that's a continuous thing that you would have to relive
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
aware of for that one moment of your life over and over until you find a solution. And it seemed like that woman was looking for 300 years and she's still not happy.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
who would want to live that way? I couldn't imagine torment. It's almost as she's tormenting herself. But then
Herself.
it goes to, how can we find a way to guide them to get rest? But we can't see them. We can't physically sit them down and say, girl, you need to quit. You know what I mean? Like, you can't. So what do you do? What do you do? And it's scary, life after death, or where we go. We don't know. I
Mm-hmm.
think to honestly say that we just don't know until someone has and died, not seconds and minutes. I'm talking about dead to the point they put them in the freezer. They thaw them out to do an autopsy, and right when they cut the brain, they come back and say, hold up, I got something to tell you. You know what I mean?
That's happened.
See,
That's happened.
that happened.
Body bags have sat up. Yep.
Oh,
People have been pronounced dead. The person's about to cut into them to do a little autopsy. Yep.
I'm sorry, but if I'm working somewhere and a body bag stood straight
Sits
up,
up.
that'd be my last day. There's no way I'm coming back to work. I quit and I'm working at McDonald's. I couldn't imagine working somewhere. I could not come back. There is not enough. You could pay me $1 million an hour, but once that bag stood up, I'm good. There's no. I don't want to know about that story. That's scary. That is scary.
Now it's scary to both parties too, because one person is in a body bag suffocating, and the other person is just trying to do their job. Now the person that runs away may actually be murdering the person that they left behind.
Oh my goodness. So you want me to unzip the bag? Oh no. Well, don't they have a way? Don't they have something in the zipper that goes inside just in case?
We're gonna have to. We'll have to go find out.
Yeah, we're gonna have to find a real life body bag and do the experiment.
Is it like a tent where there's a zipper on the inside?
Yeah, because I'm like curious. You zip these people up. Like, how do you?
If there's a zipper on the inside, then there's a reason that they put a zipper on the inside. Because this happens more than we know.
Yeah, if I see now, yeah, we gotta go somewhere where they have like body bags, and so we could just like, I don't want to do nothing with it. I just want to see if there's a zipper on the inside. That's it, and take a picture and be like, yes, it does, because bodies be sitting up. Oh,
just in case.
I would have shitted on myself. I would have raised the dead for the amount of feces that would have came out of me. They would have all stood up. That is scary. Oh my God. I got to know more about that.
Okay.
Do you have an actual story that you could look up?
Absolutely.
Oh.
I know of at least 3 stories off the top of my head where people have been pronounced dead in body bags, and people have been taking them to the morgue or found them in the morgue moving.
Oh my goodness.
Yep.
That's terrifying. You know, I wish my uncle was a mortician for like 100 years, I feel like. And he was the only one that wanted to, the family, autopsies and whatever you do for the family. And I mean, he's done my uncle, he's done my dad, that would have been, see, I was too young. He died when I was, early 2000s. So it would have been nice
to get the stories.
To get these stories. Oh my gosh. Like, has a body bag or a body stood up and said, hey, what are you doing? Yeah.
Apparently, if a person has a certain muscle condition in their back, when they die and rigor mortis sets in, it can cause the muscles in their back to contract and sit them up straight.
That'd be my last day. I would have clocked out. Left the body right there and ran. That would have been it. No. There's probably more stories like that we definitely got to get into. But yeah, for that this should be a part 2, because that, yeah, where we go
next time.
Yeah, what happens to us when we die? That is what we are talking about. But any last remarks, Lovey?
We don't know, but we're reading everything we can. We're doing science, we're experimenting, and we're learning every single day. So we're closer and closer to the answers.
Now I'm more scared. And I love horror films. You know what's so funny?
What?
Even though I love horror films, the things that scare me the most is paranormal and the supernatural and the unexplained. Aliens and ghosts scare me to death.
Absolutely.
Even when just talking about it. Like, absolutely. I was putting this little thing together that you could see, and it scared me.
Yeah.
Pictures.
Interdimensional beings. Yes, absolutely. because they have powers that we don't have. But at the same time, we most likely have powers that they don't have. So
I don't know about that, but I know I got running power. If I ever see anything like that, I
I've got some
am
tripping
running.
power.
Yeah, I'm getting out of here. No way. I'm not sticking around. No. But I guess that is our conclusion of what happens when you die. Don't do that. That's scary. Thank you. And please let us know your experiences when, if you experienced anything, if you passed away and came back, if you know a loved one, anything like that.
Tell us.
Please.
We would love to interview you. We would love to learn more, definitely.
The topic today was what happens when we die, and we talked about it. Now I'm scared. Because, I was just thinking one way, but Miss Lovely here.
Yep.
Lovey really gave me a different perspective. So I'm going to be sleeping under the covers and the lights on. Thank you so much, guys, for listening. Stay tuned for more some topics that are very interesting, and they get creepier and scarier as we move on. And plus, we will always put in some type of movie reference, to explain some of the stuff we were talking about. So guys, subscribe, like, and comment so more spooky, scary stuff can happen like this. Really appreciate it, so we can bring more and more and more.